She said Diddy got semen recipes.
She said a lot yesterday that sets them up for the landing. They just haven't landed the plane.
Have you ever wondered what dark secrets lie buried beneath the glossy veneer of fame and fortune? What if the untimely death of a musical genius was no tragic accident, but a carefully plotted crime orchestrated by one of Hollywood's most powerful figures? In a courtroom drama that has shocked the world, the final recording of Prince Rogers Nelson has surfaced, and it shatters everything we thought we knew. Buckle up, because this roller coaster of deceit, betrayal, and high-stakes justice is about to take you on the wildest ride of your life.
I think that, if anything, you walked away believing that this woman could have been taken advantage of.
It's only day 2, y'all.
But they also said people are leaving.
The moment the recording cut through the hushed courtroom, an electric tension snapped through the air. Every eye, every ear, every heartbeat focused on the grainy audio emerging from a hidden wooden box in Paisley Park's depths. No one expected the voice of a legend, speaking from beyond the grave, to rip the mask off a music mogul's empire. As the last notes faded, faces drained of color, and even the steely prosecutor blinked back disbelief. The trial of Sean Diddy Combs had just veered into uncharted territory.
They spent so much time on their history, on why she didn't do this. They kept asking her a lot of the same questions about the drugs they were taking. But what I think that the prosecution was building is they were building character around this.
From the very start, the case was meant to focus on a string of depraved allegations: sexual assault, exploitation, and an abuse of power that read like the pages of a modern horror story. But when the prosecution's star witness, former partner Cassie Ventura, took the stand and delivered her earth-shaking testimony, the entire narrative exploded. Ventura revealed that Prince had been silenced, his demise no mere overdose, but a meticulously orchestrated murder designed to bury the truth he was about to expose.
So, to all of you weirdos, you degenerate.
Within days, law enforcement swarmed Paisley Park, peeling back its pristine walls and locked doors. In a basement corridor hidden behind a cleverly disguised false wall, they discovered a small wooden box bearing Prince's emblem. Inside lay damning physical evidence: handwritten notes, laboratory vials of a lethal synthetic opioid, and the USB drive containing Prince's final words. The find redefined the scope of Combs' trial, from sordid allegations to full-blown homicide proceedings. Detectives retraced the movements of that fateful night, April 18, 2016, when Prince's life was extinguished in what the world was told was an accidental overdose. Security footage from neighboring homes revealed a black sedan idling outside Paisley Park, its engine ticking through the early hours. Motion sensors logged strange activity near a secluded basement entrance, while the main doors remained untouched. All paths, like threads in a tapestry, led inexorably back to Diddy's inner circle.
That keep coming to my live streams about the P. Diddy trial, trying to defend P. Diddy and vilify.
At the center of it all was Marcus Tate, Combs' right-hand man, whose fingerprints were later matched on the vial containing the lethal dose. Under the intense glare of FBI interrogation, Tate confessed that he'd delivered a spiked bottle of wine to the mansion that night, at Combs' direct orders. He described in trembling tones how Prince collapsed in convulsions, how he dragged the body through hidden halls, and how the scene was staged to mimic a tragic accident. Courtroom spectators gasped as Ventura detailed the so-called freak-off parties Prince had warned her about. Orgies of power and predation, where young artists were groomed, exploited, and silenced. She recounted how the superstar had recorded clandestine meetings, gathering proof of Combs' empire of manipulation. Prince's paranoia might once have seemed eccentric, but now it looked prophetic. With each new piece of evidence, the portrait of a cold-blooded killer emerged. The infamous final recording opened with Prince's wary voice describing threats he'd received, evidence he'd gathered, and instructions to check his personal archive if he met an untimely end. He spoke of a party where he'd tasted that fatal wine, sensing betrayal in every sip. Though his words were laced with caution, they carried the weight of a dying man's warning.
Cassie, right? Did you see the new evidence that they have?
Prosecutor Eleanor Hayes seized every moment to hammer home the implications. Forensic experts confirmed the opioid's potency, tracing its origin to a small lab linked to Combs' network. A detailed reconstruction of the basement's layout showed how easily Tate could move unseen, why the drag marks went unnoticed, and how the elaborate cover-up fooled even seasoned investigators. Meanwhile, Combs' legal team scrambled. They filed motions to exclude Ventura's testimony, to challenge the chain of custody for the box, and to question the recording's authenticity. But with fingerprints on the vial, forensic confirmation of the poison, and Tate's confession, every gambit collapsed like a house of cards. The defense's final appeal for a postponement was rebuffed by Judge Grayson, whose gavel fell with the force of a verdict already written. Outside the courthouse, fans of Prince rallied beneath purple banners, chanting for justice and for the voice they loved to be heard. Social media erupted with hashtags demanding accountability. Within those walls, Combs sat ashen and hollowed, his usual swagger replaced by a haunted resignation. The court watched as he absorbed the weight of a legend's final testimony.
Introduced into the trial. Well, apparently, Prince, oh yes, the purple one,
As closing arguments unfolded, Hayes reminded the jury that this case was about more than one man's fall from grace. It was about shining a light on a corrupt industry that treats artists as disposable assets. It was about honoring the legacy of a musician who, even in death, refused to be silenced. By the time the jury withdrew, the outcome felt inevitable. When the verdict was delivered, the silence was deafening. Guilty on counts of first-degree murder, drug trafficking, and more, Combs was sentenced to life without parole, his empire reduced to ruins. A collective sigh, or was it a sob, swept through the courtroom as the gavel struck final judgment. Justice, at last, for Prince. In the aftermath, questions remain. What other secrets lie hidden in Paisley Park's dusty archives? Which wooden boxes still await their moment to reveal untold stories? And how many more voices have been lost to the ambition of those who crave power at any cost? Prince's final act was to unmask the darkness he faced.
Documented and recorded a bunch of ish, just in case something happened to him. And
the aftermath of the verdict sent tremors through every corner of the entertainment world. Industry insiders who once reveled in the glitter of fame now glanced over their shoulders, wondering whose name might next emerge from the shadows. Late-night hosts seized on the scandal, mocking red carpets and backroom deals with biting humor that left executives squirming. Social media influencers dissected every courtroom sketch, turning legal jargon into memes that spread faster than the news itself. Even fashion houses, usually aloof, found their haute couture tainted by association, as purple-themed lines bowed to public discomfort. Meanwhile, lawmakers in Washington listened with intent, drafting proposals to tighten oversight of lavish parties and private estates. Committees convened hearings, summoning security experts to explain how a single false wall could hide such explosive evidence. Celebrities gave rehearsed testimonies, pledging support for transparency and safe workplaces. But many voices felt hollow, drowned out by the stink of hypocrisy. Advocates for artists' rights grew emboldened, demanding that record labels and agencies implement anonymous reporting channels. The call was simple: no more closed doors, no more secret chambers, no more silenced cries behind the facade of glamour.
And it confirms everything Cassie was saying. Oops. Angry Man was right again. Rest in peace to the purple one.
Across the globe, fans of Prince organized vigils outside every U.S. embassy, turning landmarks into makeshift memorials bathed in purple light. In London, admirers draped Trafalgar Square's steps with vinyl records. In Tokyo, lanterns floated in the Sumida River. In Johannesburg, crowds sang his classics under starlit skies. These spontaneous tributes spoke to a universal grief: the loss of a visionary and the betrayal of trust. Street artists spray-painted portraits of Prince next to broken chains, symbolizing both his creative freedom and the bondage he resisted. The message was clear: his music lives on, but the industry that failed him must change.
Day 8 of the criminal trial against Sean Combs. We heard a few more hours of testimony from the federal agent who helped serve.
At colleges and universities, professors revamped course syllabi to include this trial as a case study in ethics and power. Law students pored over transcripts, debating the admissibility of posthumous recordings and the morality of secret accomplices. Music business programs held panel discussions titled "When Art Meets Crime," where former executives shared compromised integrity. Psychology departments analyzed the cult of celebrity that enables predators to hide in plain sight. Even journalism schools revisited their code of conduct, questioning past tendencies to glamorize moguls at the expense of victims' voices. In the tech sphere, developers raced to create new audit tools for private estates, proposing digital seals that could flag unauthorized construction or hidden compartments. Startups pitched blockchain solutions to authenticate chain of custody for physical evidence, ensuring that no wooden box could vanish into obscurity again. Drone mapping services offered aerial scans of properties to reveal concealed extensions, while AI-driven security cameras promised to detect false walls through thermal analysis. The market buzzed with excitement, though critics warned against over-reliance on untested tech and potential privacy violations. Back in Minnesota, Paisley Park itself became a magnet for conspiracy theorists and tourists alike. Unauthorized ghost tours popped up overnight, guided by self-appointed experts who pointed to every crack in the pavement as a clue. Local officials debated erecting barriers to control the crowds, torn between preserving the site and preventing desecration of Prince's legacy.
Mr. Combs' home on Star Island in September. There was one part of the home, this was up in Mr. Combs' bedroom.
As the dust settled, a wave of memoirs hit bookstore shelves. Tales from former insiders who claimed to have sensed the rot long before the trial. Some accounts read like thrillers, naming names and detailing whispered threats. Others seemed opportunistic, filled with unverified hearsay. Literary critics sorted through the hype, distinguishing credible recollections from sensationalist spin. Libraries offered Fight Club-style reading groups, encouraging community debate over the ethics of profiting from scandal. Book clubs gathered to discuss whether these revelations honored Prince's truth-seeking spirit or merely fed the public's appetite for scandal. On streaming platforms, music curators crafted Justice for Prince playlists, juxtaposing his hits with songs that speak of betrayal and resilience. Podcasts proliferated, legal analyses, industry exposés, survivor testimonies, even true crime dramatizations narrated by voice actors. One hit series, Purple Rain and Red Flags, charted daily developments in Combs' appeals and the broader push for reform. Subscribers grew into the millions as listeners tuned in to hear every forensic detail and courtroom clash. Advertisers scrambled to align with the righteous momentum, sponsoring episodes that promised to hold the powerful accountable.
They found 25 bottles of baby oil, 31 bottles of Astroglide. We also heard from Dr. Dawn.
In Hollywood, producers eyed the story's cinematic potential. Agents pitched scripts almost as soon as the verdict was announced. A-list actors expressed interest in portraying Prince, Ventura, or even Diddy, though many balked at the moral complexity. Studios debated the ethics of dramatizing ongoing fallout, worrying about defamation suits from unnamed accomplices. Writers argued over tone, how to balance high-energy satire with the gravity of real law. A few projects advanced, promising a blend of courtroom thriller and dark comedy, but insiders cautioned that the real story might be too fresh, too raw for the screen. Meanwhile, Cassie Ventura's life transformed irrevocably. She moved under a new identity, enrolled in therapy, and published a memoir not for profit, but to reclaim her narrative. In interviews, she spoke of fear that once kept her silent, now replaced by a fierce resolve to safeguard future generations of artists. She donated part of her advances to charities that support survivors of industry abuse. Yet she admitted in candid moments that the trial's glare has never dimmed. Every headline feels like a reopening of old wounds. Her final message was hopeful, that truth, however painful, can lead to healing. As for Sean Combs, the prison years began with isolation and reflection. Stripped of his empire, he confronted the magnitude of his actions in solitary confinement. Psychologists reported that he vacillated between defiance and regret, haunted by the recording that testified against him. Attempts to appeal on grounds of new evidence faltered. Only time will tell if remorse grows genuine or remains another calculated performance.
Hughes, a forensic psychologist. During her testimony, Mr. Combs sent several notes to his attorney. Dr. Hughes.
The music industry, for its part, responded with a series of incremental reforms. Major labels instituted independent oversight boards to review artist contracts and party approvals. Talent agencies agreed to transparent reporting for travel and accommodations. Security protocols around private events tightened with random audits and third-party observers. But critics argued these changes amounted to little more than window dressing, too slow, too timid, too prone to corporate capture. Activists continued to campaign, calling for binding regulations rather than voluntary guidelines.
Testified that victims stay in abusive relationships for several reasons. She said it's very common. No victim wants to be abused. They could have a financial...
Hit subscribe, smash that like button, and drop a comment below. Join the movement that holds fame to account and keeps the legacy of truth alive.